Synchro monsters have been some of the most iconic and powerful monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Ranging from monsters like Stardust Dragon to Baronne de Fleur, these cards have always impacted and shaped how we played Yu-Gi-Oh! But currently, in the TCG for 2024, Synchro monsters are pretty much dead. And I think that trend will soon follow Master Duel and the OCG. In today's video, not only will I be breaking down every single one of Synchro Monster's problems, I'll also be providing a solution to this legendary mechanic that hopefully Konami will take advice to be able to say. Let's go ahead and jump on in. So Synchros made their debut in 2008 with the Duelist Genesis set. This makes the mechanic 16 years old, which means it's not only old enough to drive, it actually is old enough to have a job. What's your excuse? Unfortunately though, age isn't the reason why Synchro Monsters struggle so much. Fusion Monsters, which is the Extra Deck's first induction, are thriving in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. And while the other mechanics after Synchro Monsters give mixed results, more videos on those potentially later, one of the biggest problems with Synchros is that oftentimes it feels antique. And I don't want to use this video to compare Link monsters to Synchro monsters, but I do want to use that as a point of reference because these two mechanics have so many similarities, and overall it does point out a lot of flaws about the Synchro mechanic that could be looked upon and improved on. Synchro monsters are like older dogs. We absolutely love them, but they can't do the things that they once were able to do. And one of the biggest reasons why they can't do what they used to do is because they need more. Kind of like how Synchro monsters need a specific type of monster to be synchro summoned, that being tuners. And within that problem, you have another set of problems: the tuner monsters themselves. Not only do you need those tuner monsters to be able to line up perfectly with your non-tuner monsters to be able to perform a synchro summon, kind of like you have to wait for your dog to have a very good day, your tuner monsters themselves are flawed and not as strong. I think it was smart that Konami designed tuners to be weak to help balance them between the powerful cards that you played inside of your deck. This was especially effective when Synchros first came out, as they were really cool cards, but in order to be able to summon these very powerful monsters, you had to go out of your way to play weak tuner monsters. The problem with this is that over time, cards have gotten even stronger where tuner monsters haven't. Most of the powerful tuner monsters are still the same from when Synchro monsters were at their peak. Unfortunately, those same tuner monsters have been consistently repurposed for other things that aren't synchro summoned. And the biggest problem with that goes back to that dog analogy. Instead of taking your older dog out hoping that it will go out and play, you can take your younger dog out and guarantee that that will happen. Those same tuner monsters like Glowbulb and Jet Synchron that could be used for a synchro summon are ironically stronger at link summoning. Just those cards by themselves allow you to link summon twice and get far more versatility than performing a synchro summon. Cards like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring and Effect Veiler are often forgotten about as tuner monsters when it comes to this conversation. Hand traps being tuners are useless in most situations simply because they do their job at being hand trapped better than being tuner monsters. Investing a card like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring and a high level monster just to produce a synchro monster normally doesn't get you the results that you're looking for. And that's where it brings us to our second problem when it comes to synchros. Konami's philosophy on balancing Yu-Gi-Oh monsters is that typically the lower level monsters are easier to summon and oftentimes have stronger effects. And the higher the level of a monster that you summon typically has stronger stats and sometimes a stronger effect, depending on how powerful or how hard it would be to summon the monster. And the problem with that in itself is that with those multiple monsters, you could have made more link monsters. And the higher level monsters, you're normally wasting a really good effect, and the trade-off is normally not worth. Now, this could be ignored when you had monsters like Baronne de Fleur that not only provided a way to stop any of your opponent's cards, but also can turn itself back into the high level monster that you use. Or Borreload Savage Dragon, who was a little bit easier to summon to your side of the field and benefited strategies that also played link. But with those cards out of the picture in the TCG, the pool is not only incredibly limited, investing those type of resources to be able to summon the other monsters isn't the best trade-off a lot of the times. Even powerful replacement monsters like Bestial Dispatter and Cypher and Lord Omega aren't as optimal as just link summoning into other powerful cards. And it has a lot to do with ease of summoning. Getting the correct monsters on your side of the field, you don't always have the situation for these cards to be able to thrive. Whereas link monsters in their versatility, you don't necessarily need a particular type of card on the field. You just need a random bunch of monsters that go together. But now, how do we fix this problem? It brings us back to that dog analogy, where an older dog is lacking in options to be able to exercise and play, where a younger one simply isn't. This is especially prevalent when you consider that some of the most powerful level 6 monsters like Goyo Guardian and Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barrier were both errata, and the higher level synchro monsters like Stardust Dragon and Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier are either way too old to be able to compete or incredibly hard to summon. Having a myriad of good synchro monsters in different levels to allow you to tune into the option that you need to address the situation. Being a mechanic that can toolbox your way out of a situation was long lost to Lynx, and being a mechanic that could overwhelm your opponent with a ton of power was lost to Xyz. Synchro monsters in totality are in a weird spot, where they're not versatile enough to be able to answer a situation on demand, and not powerful enough to be able to be the win button cards that they were meant to be. And in all honesty, the latter is probably for good reason. Because when Konami does make those type of cards, we get monsters like Baron de Fleur and Borlode Savage Dragon, which has not been healthy for the game, but I think that's for a totally different video. What I like about Synchro monsters is that it does have a uniqueness to it, requiring a specific type of monster as well as other monsters to make big monsters from your extra deck. And the more monsters or the higher the level, the stronger this monster is. The problem with this has always been the tuners and how you balance them. I've already said before that if you make tuner monsters strong in the wrong type of way, then they're just used for link summoning, kind of like how Jet Synchron and Glowbulb were. And if you make the tuner monster too strong, it often overshadows its synchro capabilities, like how Ash Blossom and the rest of the hand traps are. Finding a middle ground, whether it's changing how the synchro mechanic would operate, take for example, you can synchro summon with tuner monsters in your hand, would easily change the dynamics of synchro summoning. But even if you didn't want to make it a rule for synchro summoning, there are actually tuner monsters that have been printed that allow you to do that from hand. Monsters like Revolution Synchron are a step in the right direction. And I do think that you can get stronger with these type of effects, so long as you lock the player to only being able to synchro summon, similar to what other mechanics have, like the fusion mechanic having branded fusion. I also think that there's a fine line between making powerful synchro monsters and overtly powerful synchro monsters. But what Konami should do going forward is incentivize players to play synchro monsters inside of their extra deck over the other mechanics. A way to be able to do this is allow synchro monsters to recycle themselves back into the extra deck. That's something that the other mechanics don't have, but they don't have a trade-off like synchros. Requiring tuner monsters and the levels to be able to match up is extremely hard. And because of this, I think the reward of synchro summoning should match the difficulty. Because even when synchro monsters go back into the extra deck, you still have to provide the resources to summon them again. That is another way that Konami can introduce either as a mechanic or going forward, making synchro monsters like Cyframe Lord Omega that can shuffle themselves back into the extra deck. The third way to be able to fix synchro summoning, I think would probably be the best way, because essentially it solves two birds with one stone. Token monsters can be considered some of the most broken cards in the game. It's essentially because one card provides multiple monsters to your side of the field, and players often take advantage of that by being able to use them for link summon. If you restrict token monsters to only be used for synchro summons, it balances a lot of the problems that synchro monsters have. Not only does it fix the need for high level or multiple monsters to be on the side of the field, it also allows you to keep tuner monsters in their balance capabilities exactly where they're at. And Konami can do this in multiple ways. They can either make it a rule, or they can just start printing token monsters that can only be used for a synchro summon and nothing else. The fourth solution is really simple for what Konami can do to fix the synchro mechanic. Give synchro monsters more options. Introducing more synchro monsters that are not only in the more common levels, but the under-supported level makes it feel good when you actually can place a tuner monster alongside the field. It rewards players for allowing them to mix and match their tuner monsters with their non-tuner monsters. Konami could also look into allowing synchro monsters to be summoned without tuner monsters, so long as they fit a particular parameter. I really like what they did with Chaos Angel, a monster that could be synchro summoned using a tuner monster, but also doesn't have to be synchro summoned using a tuner monster. And then adds on added benefits depending on the type of cards that you tuned it with. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm a synchro hater or anything. I actually love synchros. It's my second favorite mechanic of all time. And my favorite synchro monster is easily Black Rose Dragon. I think that that card is amazing. And I want to hear what you guys' favorite synchro monsters are. But I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about synchro monsters. I think as Konami's second oldest extra deck mechanic in the history of the game, they definitely need some love, but they also need some balancing and fine-tuning. Go ahead and let me know, as well as if you enjoy these type of videos. But until then, you can check out these other ones so I can catch you on the next one.